Keough here from College Aid Pro. So today, let's talk about the concept of demonstrated interest and what it is and what role it plays in applying to college and getting into college. First, let's talk about what it is. So the name pretty much describes what it is. So demonstrated interest is showing interest in something, right? So in this space, we're basically talking about going to college, being admitted into college. So demonstrated interest is that student or that family showing interest in the college. So why would the college care about demonstrated interest? Colleges send out a bunch of acceptances, right? They send out more than they can take in, but they have certain what's called yield targets. And so that means they send out so many acceptances and they're expecting throughout the season, like when they start giving out acceptances all the way through May 1st of the senior year of the students, they have targets of by April 1, we want to have this many deposit checks. That means this many students that said yes to our acceptance, and they track that very closely. That's how they make money, right? The tuition, the revenue comes in from families. I just want to take a minute to say that most colleges are nonprofits, but don't kid yourself. These colleges and universities are big businesses. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. They're businesses, right? They have to have balance sheets. They have to maintain revenue to cover expenses. And they are doing that in very intentional ways. So just keep that in mind. So they are looking at their yield target. So when they're accepting kids, they want to accept kids that are competitive, that they really want to have on campus, that they think are going to be big contributors to the university for sure. But they also want to accept kids that they think are going to say yes, because they know nowadays that students are applying to a lot of schools. They're not just applying to 3 schools or their favorite school. Some students can be applying to 10 to 20 schools, right? That's a whole nother conversation of if that many schools is necessary, but it's pretty common that a typical college student, I don't have the exact stats, applies to maybe 8 or 9, 10 schools. And the colleges know that. So they know they're competing to get that student that they might want to accept. So not all schools, but a lot of schools track what's called demonstrated interest. And the reason they do it is if a student seems interested, and talk about how they might gauge that, they might be more likely to say yes when accepted and send in that deposit check. So that's what matters to them. Now, not all colleges look at demonstrated interest, but the ones that do, what they're looking for is anything that shows interest. So they send out emails. If the student clicks on the email and opens it, that's tracked. If there's videos in there and they watch videos, if you as a parent reach out to Office of Admissions with questions or Office of Financial Aid and they know who you are, that is all tracked. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because when they are making admissions decisions, say they have 2 students, so they have Susie and they have Johnny, and both kids are similar as far as grades and test scores and their resumes, and that this college wants both of these kids. They would be good contributors to the campus and great kids to have in their pool of acceptances. So if they look at these 2 kids, and Susie has visited, she attended a session when they came to her town and spoke at a hotel, she's talked to professors, whatever it is, she's opened a bunch of emails, and then they look at Johnny and he really doesn't have much on the side of demonstrated interest. He hasn't visited, hasn't really opened up any of their emails, that sort of thing. If they're filling out their class, it's likely that they're going to pick Susie, not because Johnny's a bad kid, but because it looks more likely that Susie's going to come because she has reached out to the school. For example, with my 2 kids, when they, between them, applied to 20 colleges. Well, I didn't go visit all those schools. So I don't want you to feel pressured that you, if your kids are looking at schools all over the country, that, oh my gosh, Peg's telling me I've got to go visit all these schools to get demonstrated interest. You don't need to. I didn't do that. It would have been very expensive. So I waited till the kids got in to do tours on campus. But some of the schools came to Seattle, which is, I live outside of Seattle, and they went on a campaign with 3 other colleges and they spoke. Well, I made sure that we were there. I made sure that my kids went. They signed up on the sign-in sheet. They met people, they asked questions. So it's not just for playing the game of, oh, I got to get as many pings as I can for these different schools on demonstrated interest, but it's actually a good thing. It's a win-win, because if you show demonstrated interest and the college tracks it, that can help with admissions, but also you and your kids are learning about that school. And that's really important to decide if it's a good school to apply to and where your child's going to thrive. If your child's interested in a specific major, getting a hold of a professor and talking about the program, that shows demonstrated interest if it's tracked, but it also is a very important conversation to have to see if that's a good school for your child to consider applying to. So again, it's not just about playing the demonstrated interest game. It gives you data that's very valuable, but at the same time, it could help if the school tracks it for admission. So it's a win-win. And again, my daughter got into all the schools she applied to, and we did not visit most of them beforehand because it was just too expensive to run all over the country to visit schools that my kids may or may not get into. And that was our choice. I'm not telling you not to tour campuses. I'm just saying, don't feel there's other ways to learn about a college besides actually physically, if it's required, getting on a plane and doing a tour before you're admitted. Another thing to keep in mind is that there's big college fairs all over the country. Where I am, it happens to be in Seattle, and it's usually around Halloween, and it's 2 days. That's a great opportunity to register. It's free. Register, go talk to a lot of the schools that are on your child's list. And again, they're going to have a record of you coming there. So you're getting good information about the college, and you're getting credit for demonstrated interest. So there's a lot of different ways to do. And again, I will say one more time that not all schools track this. So I'm not telling you that every school does this, but a lot of them do. And it makes sense that they care about this because, as I said at the beginning, kids have a lot of schools on their list. So they're trying to do their best to see which one of these kids, if we actually accept them, we give them a nice financial aid package, are they going to come? That's the big thing that colleges are figuring out, and that's their yield. So keep that in mind. So I hope this helped. If you've heard this term demonstrated interest, I hope this helped you understand what it means. And as always, happy planning.